Hello everybody, welcome back to another video. I'm hoping you guys are all having a fantastic day. So we have a lot of stuff to talk about. There are three potential pretty large storm systems: winter storms, rainstorms, whatever it may be. At this point it is a pretty big mystery, but I will be most heavily going over the first system, as that will be occurring within the next 48 to 72 hours. Then followed within 24 to 48 hours by another system, and then by the next 2 to 3 days by yet a third system. So three big storms, and they will be pretty powerful, especially the latter two. The first one maybe not so much, but definitely something to talk about in the weather. So if you guys are new to this channel, hello and welcome. I do weather-related content. I'm a hobbyist. I like talking about the weather. If you like that type of stuff, check out the channel. See if this channel will suit you, and obviously consider subscribing. And if you are a returning viewer, liking the video is fantastic. Otherwise, let's get into this video. So notice that right now we are looking at the European model, and let's start off with that model, as that one usually does the best and it has been doing relatively good. So the first system is already starting to form. Its energy is kind of in the Rockies right now. There is a bit of precipitation already getting ejected, if you will, out into Missouri and Illinois and Kansas. And as that starts expanding and intensifying, really right now it's just really light rain. We'll have to see the exact track, right? Because you can see the European keeps us pretty darn far to the south. But if we were to look at the current radar, the precipitation right now, if you will, the rain is setting up a few hundred miles further to the north. Whether or not that's gonna, have an effect on the snow swath or the actual storm track, we'll have to see. At this point, there's a lot of locations that are kind of gonna get impacted, or maybe not, depending on which model you look at. And yes, that sounds vague. Yes, that sounds really bad. And obviously you will find out on Sunday, but it would be nice to have a heads up. Unfortunately, it's going to be hard to give that precisely. Notice this precipitation again starts intensifying. Most of Missouri starts seeing rain and snow. You can see this is late tomorrow evening, Saturday at around 7 o'clock in the afternoon, Central Standard Time. And depending on where this sets up, obviously going to make a big impact. If it's further to the north, then the snow could shift further to the north. If it's further to the south, then the system will shift further to the south, obviously, and produce a snow further to the south. It's all correlated. And if we continue pushing this into motion, you can see we start seeing some sleet. That is that is pink. Not red, not pink, it's purple. And notice that we do see some sleet start forming. Again, this is going to be an interesting setup because the temperatures are going to be extremely marginal. It's November, and it's a extremely warm November, so snow is hard to come by, if you will. And again, this will have trouble converting itself over to snow. So even if this affects and extends into Illinois, say, or more of central to northern Michigan, you can see that the snow is kind of irregular. It's basically centered around a core, and that's usually sometimes what happens when rain falls. Rain cooled air, and that could give it enough to start producing snow. There's going to be a band of snow across Minnesota and into Minneapolis, maybe Duluth. Again, nothing too heavy, though. An inch of snow at most is going to fall, which could still lead to impacts. Notice we have the low pressure tracking developing, a very weak one. Kentucky, Indiana into Cincinnati, centered right across Cincinnati, the Quad Cities, the tri-state area of Kentucky, Indiana, and Ohio. And this is at around 2 o'clock in the afternoon Sunday. And notice this thing tracks into the northeast. While the northeast sees rain, for my Canadian viewers, you will be seeing actually a good amount of snow. Toronto will be seeing snow according to this European model. Much of Montreal, Ottawa, Quebec, these larger cities, a lot of them will be kind of close to seeing the rain snow line mix, and depending on which model is correct, you may actually transition over to rain. But again, I would say the highest chance for rain is probably Quebec, because this storm pushes further and further to the north, so you will see snow. How much and how long that will last is a bit of a mystery. You can see that this right now is at around 2 o'clock in the morning Monday, so Sunday to Monday. This thing is relatively fast moving, and it does bring quite a bit of rain into the northeast. You can see this will be directly off the ocean, so definitely will also be impactful. No flooding threat really seems to be the issue with this, but as it moves into southeastern Canada, the St. Lawrence Bay, and into Quebec, New Brunswick, and into Labrador. Nova Scotia mainly rain further to the south, but you can see it does intensify and has those tighter isobars with the help of this high pressure. So some winds are definitely going to be there. And we could there's actually two high pressures. I didn't even see that one up there. So these two are kind of combining a very, very large loop, and that will obviously lead to some stronger winds as a result. And then just to show you the three storms that I was talking about, notice, I mean, literally this storm is pulling away into Maine, and while the second one's already starting to develop, we start seeing a lot of precipitation. This one has a lot of potential. If there's more cold air, this thing could be a snow dumper. At this point, you can see that the European doesn't really buy into that. They are all showing the snow being marginal, so not a lot of it, and the reason for that is, well, mainly because of the fact it's extremely warm. This November has been historically, it's been historic November in terms of temperatures. Much of the United States has broken records. I'm interested to see whether or not this will be Chicago's ever warmest November since, I think, the 19th century, the 1800s, late 1800s. If that happens, then that's, I mean, that's just a one in a lifetime event. So again, the snow is going to be hard to come by. You can see Wisconsin, Minnesota, the UP, typically locations that see steady snow at around this time, late November, almost early December. They will be hard pressed to get that snow. And again, there will be a lot of precipitation, a lot of rain. Whether or not this produces more snow, more rain is still yet to be determined. I mean, heck, we don't even have a lot of confidence with this little first guy, let alone the second one. In case you're wondering about the timing, this one, obviously, depending on where you live, let's just track it out and choose your location wherever you live: Iowa, Nebraska, Illinois, Indiana, wherever it may be. And let's look through this. 2 a.m. Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the morning or Tuesday, 2 o'clock in the afternoon Tuesday, 7 o'clock in the evening Tuesday, 2 o'clock in the morning Wednesday, 7 o'clock in the morning, 2 o'clock in the afternoon, 7 o'clock in the evening, and then 2 o'clock in the morning Thursday. So you can see that by Thursday morning, a lot of this is winding down. We may see a bit of a development. We'll see the European is kind of shooting up a bit of precip. Again, I mean, the lack of cold air is just absurd. I mean, this doesn't even transition to snow once it reaches Quebec. So again, cold air is hard to come by at around this pattern that we have right now. Not around this time of the year, but around this pattern that we have. And yeah, obviously that is unusual, but notice then we have that third storm, a lot of moisture, a lot of precipitation, a lot of rain, minimal snow, but this one looks to be pretty powerful potentially. We'll have to see. This one is kind of recent, just been showing up, so a lot of uncertainty, but we'll have to keep things monitored. And obviously this first little beast is going to be our main priority. Let's take a look all the way to 240 hours and just take a glance at the total snowfall accumulations. Again, the total snowfall as of now does not look impressive. There's not going to be giant swaths of snow. And that's typically the case for November. You don't see large snowstorms occurring across the central United States. There have been, obviously, but even with a slightly warmer November, that doesn't happen, and let alone a historic record-breaking warm November. And obviously there are a few locations that have been a bit cooler, but I'm speaking for like the 95% of folks has been warmer. Notice that the snow, obviously wherever it does line up with that third or second system, is going to make a difference. This is from that first storm, so that does look pretty measly, right? But you can see southern Canada maybe even get some 10-inch, 11-inch amounts. Into Minnesota, a bit of snow, and into Indiana and Detroit. Those are like our Michigan, not Detroit. Well, Detroit's the city, that's why I said it. So let's take a look at some of the higher resolution models. Actually, before we do that, let me just show you the GFS 240 snowfall outlook. You can see very similar, confined to the north, even less than what the European shows. It completely doesn't really show. Okay, let's look at the updated one. Sorry, that was the one that was 6 hours old. I mean, their most recent one really isn't that much of a difference. Very much similar. You can see it doesn't really, that weekend system, it doesn't show a lot. And I don't know, I don't think the GFS has a good handle on that. But generally, the similar track, a bit more leaning towards the north, kind of angled up. we'll have to see. Again, the confidence on this system is, I would say, moderate, right? But this is the thing, that's the track may stay consistent, but it's how the atmosphere behaves. And with such warm temperatures, it's hard to forecast how it will behave, and it's been all over the place. It's a completely different environment. So whether or not that snow to rain transition occurs at all, or quicker, or sooner or later, could mean a big difference. And unfortunately, it's just impossible to predict accurately to a 100% extent, if you will. Let's take a look at now the high resolution models. So this is the NAM 3KM North American model. Again, I want to preface that these models, the NAM, all the North American model members, they do have a cold bias. They usually show more snow than there usually is, especially during a rain to snow transition scenario, which of course that's what we have this time. Notice we see precipitation developing at around the central southern Missouri, St. Louis, and the thing that's already kind of throwing it off, see, like everything would be nice and uniform. Well, the thing that's already throwing everything off is that the rain is kind of developing, 100, 200, 300 miles to the north, which obviously may not mean anything from the track, but if the precipitation is developing a bit further to the north than expected, then it's reasonable to assume that that may happen with a bit of that snow or that rain that could possibly transition into snow. So notice, this is what happens. It's kind of a little river, if you will, kind of a snow blower of rain just kind of pushing out, and then we see that system move from the Rockies out into the plains. This is at around, I'll say 1-2 o'clock in the afternoon tomorrow. This is now around 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So you can see this is a rain event predominantly, almost 100% up until that early Sunday morning, kind of, and 6 o'clock in the morning across Indiana, where we start seeing some of that rain transition into snow. Let's take a look at this again. Notice we start seeing the rain push further to the north, get some in pretty moderate rainfall rates. We see also a band of precipitation across Minnesota. That could be a little bit of snow with that as well. Notice the snow that's going to fall is going to fall heavily. Sorry about that voice crack there. It's going to fall heavily, and it's going to reach rates of, maybe up to half an inch per hour. It's going to be quick, and it's going to be wet, and whether or not it transitions quickly enough to actually be significant is going to be interesting to see. Again, there are obviously a lot of times where early season storms and the heavy, and if there's a slight even temperature inaccuracy and the snow occurs for a longer period of time, it usually falls heavily. Rain is usually at a much higher precipitation rate than snow, so that direct transition sometimes could lead to a lot more snowfall than forecasted, or vice versa, could lead to a lot less than forecasted if it doesn't pan out. And notice that Indiana, Ohio, possibly especially northern Indiana and northwestern Ohio, seeing that snow. Cleveland, maybe a bit of snow. Again, this is just one model. This may be showing the snow a bit too aggressively. It may be not. At this point, it's tough to tell. I would say, based on history and what has happened, that the NAM is showing it a bit aggressively. Or that's what I would assume. But the other models that are not part of this family are showing similar coverage. So notice Detroit seeing some rain, into Toronto, Cleveland, maybe snow transitioning into rain, and then into New York, kind of a rain-snow mix. Also the Buffalo, similar situation, and we start seeing snow move into southern Canada. Again, for cities like Toronto, this would be an all-snow event, and the snowfall amounts would be relatively heavy even for such a short occurring event. Again, 4, 5, 6, 7 inches. So again, this isn't a 1 to 2 foot storm, blizzard record breaker, but it is a system that's going to be going over some populated areas. And again, I mean, look at that. If this shifts a bit further to the south, Indiana could be seeing some snow. I'm sorry, Indianapolis. If this, also Columbus, maybe Dayton, getting in on some more snow. If this shift further to the south. If it shifts further to the north, maybe Detroit seeing some more snow. Portions of the southern Chicago suburbs, maybe. So again, a lot of cities that are kind of in between that, and unfortunately, that's often the case with snowstorms. There's a lot of cities that are on the peripherally, whatever. They're on the border between seeing a lot of snow versus no snow. And if you're to take a look at the NAM 12KM, same family, the same model from the same family. same family, different model, and you can see it shows Indiana, Ohio, seeing the similar mounts, actually almost identical tracks, so that's good, right? It's confidence, at least among the same family. The Herd model doesn't go out as far as to show the snow yet. Now the WRF models also don't go out as far to show that snow, or it is raining at this point, but it hasn't done a transition. And if we were to take a look at this, yeah, you can see it's a bit further to the south than with the other models, so maybe portions of Cleveland would be seeing more with this type of scenario. And the RGEM, a relatively good, decent model, you could see shows a bit further to the north, so maybe northern Indiana, southwestern Michigan even getting on some of this. More of Detroit, and you can see that it shifts it further to the north. Now, again, obviously, whether or not this will happen is just really, really hard to predict, and it will be definitely an interesting thing to look at and monitor. Notice, I mean, this model puts out a stripe of 6+ inches, which is pretty impressive, especially for a storm of this size. But again, there are sometimes little bands. If you recall, there was a 6-inch, I think, event across Iowa a month ago or more even, during that cold October outbreak, where there was it looked like a measly thing on a radar, but it kind of stayed over Iowa and dropped almost 6 inches across certain portions. Across, I think it was around central Iowa, Des Moines got some snow. So that was definitely, you can see, a surprise. Whether or not that'll happen with this, we don't know. And notice this is another model. These look like measly amounts, but again, I mean, for the record warm November we've had, it's gonna be a shock. This only takes it through around 2 o'clock in the afternoon Sunday, so the northeast and southeastern Canada don't get in on it yet. If we were to take a look at the global model of the Canadian, you can see that this is what it shows from the whole system. You can see that it does intensify as it pushes towards southeastern Canada quite a bit, even across Indiana and Michigan, so definitely exciting or not exciting, depending on how you view this. And this is what the Canadian shows from the future storm threat. You can see it definitely shows a bit of snow falling and potentially some heavier amounts. This is all still in the making. Again, there are some indications we could be looking at a cooler pattern into December, but they're, according to the Climate Prediction Center, they're going with a warmer scenario, and at this point it's a coin toss. I want to show you one more model before I quit this video. RDPS is a model also utilized that I use. And let's just take a look at the total accumulated snowfall. So you can see almost no snowfall across the United States, or at least the winter storm area, until about really that early Sunday morning, and then we start seeing that snow occurring across Indiana, Michigan, into southeastern Canada. Again, not impressive amounts in terms of in terms of like a large snowstorm, but still 6 inches if that were to occur. That is pretty impressive. It's just, again, very small area, isolated area, and whether that shifts north, south, east, west, bigger, smaller, is unfortunately gonna be so hard to predict. I don't even want to get on the details on this stuff. So stay tuned to National Weather Service. Keep your eyes on the sky. Look at the radar. That could give you a good clue. And get ready for a bit of a mess, even locations that are outside of this area. There is a good threat into next week of seeing some pretty large systems. So thank you so much for watching, and I'll catch you all guys in the next episode. See ya.